So this video is about how to make a magic ring in crochet. We use a magic ring when we're starting out something that's worked in the round. So for example, this coaster that I have here was started in the middle here, and we worked some stitches around the middle. So in the center there, I can start that with a magic ring, and then I can pull my ring really tightly so that I can close up that gap in the beginning. This is a little cactus, also started by a magic ring. So here there's a little ball underneath my cactus, and these rows here were made using the amigurumi method, and they were started with a magic ring. So this is actually the end, but if you're working around and around in circles like this, you can start that kind of technique with a magic ring. So how does that work? So first of all, you need your yarn. So we don't start out with a slip knot here. We're basically going to start by wrapping the yarn around our 2 fingers. So with my 2 fingers, I'm going to wrap the yarn around my fingers twice and make a cross. And then I'm going to hold the tail between my other finger. So between my ring finger and my middle finger, I'm holding that tail of yarn, and then I'm wrapping it around my 2 top fingers and making a cross like that. Okay, so we need to be able to, it's a bit cumbersome, you need to hold on to many things here, and I've just lost it a little bit. So that's my tail of yarn between my fingers, and then I've wrapped it around twice, made a cross. So then on the back of my 2 fingers, I've got two bars where I've wrapped the yarn around. And what I'm going to do with my hook, I'm going to put my hook underneath the top one, and I'm going to hook that bottom one. Okay, so it goes under the top one, and we're going to hook that bottom one and bring it underneath the top one. Then I'm going to turn my hook so that I make a loop on my hook. So twisting to make a loop. Okay, and that's really the start of my magic ring. And now I need to be quite careful, because I need to slide this ring off my fingers without losing the ring. Okay, so I'm going to carefully slide it off my fingers so that I've got my ends, but I'm keeping that ring open. And now I want to wrap my yarn around my hand, so to make my tension between my finger and the hook. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put one finger just in the middle of that ring, or I'm just going to hold on to it so that it doesn't close up. I'm just going to make one chain so that it's actually held in place. So there is my ring, and I've made one chain, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some single crochets into this ring. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to crochet over this part here, okay, and not this part here. If I crochet over that bit there, then I'm not going to be able to pull my loop tight. Okay, so I'm going to make 6 single crochets. Let's see, so that's 1. And when I'm crocheting into the ring, what I do is I pretend that this hole is actually a stitch. So I put my hook into the hole, I grab my yarn and I bring it through, and then I grab my yarn and bring it through that to make my single crochet. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm just going to pull my hook out so that you can see. So now I've got my single crochets into that loop, and what I want to do now is pull this end, so my end, and that's going to close up the loop that I made. So I'm just going to put my hook in there so I don't lose my stitches, and I'm going to pull on that end quite tightly, and it's going to pull and close up that hole, and that is my magic ring. Then my next round, if I was making amigurumi, so just making a continuous circle, then that's my first stitch. So my next stitch would go straight into that one. And actually, as you could see there, sometimes the first stitch is quite hard to get into. So just give it a little bit of a wriggle, and then you can poke yourself into that loop. So that's my next round. And what you can see is sometimes when you do that, the loop starts to open again. So often when I'm doing this kind of technique, I will do my next round, or do a few more stitches, and then I will come back to my starting end, and I will give it another good tug just to close everything up. And it's really important that this end, that you finish it off with by putting it onto a yarn needle and really weaving it around into this circle to make it tight. Otherwise it is possible that it will come undone, because it's basically a slidey loop. So at the moment it's not fastened off, so if I pull it, it will eventually come undone. So pull it tight to close up the hole, and then put this onto a yarn needle and weave it in and out of this initial circle to make it really nice and tight and snug. And that is the magic ring.